One of the most important parts to any Assassin's Creed game is the parkour, and when Assassin's Creed Origins was released, it felt like Ubisoft was trying to remove the parkour aspect of the series, mainly because they started to remove certain animations. It was also the same with the next game within the series, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it was yet again no different with Valhalla. Ubisoft didn't really show off the capabilities of parkour within the series for those types of games, mainly because it was no longer the main way for the player to travel. There was other ways, such as being able to get your longship or being on horseback. But within Assassin's Creed Mirage, all of this is changing. Mirage will be going back to the classic style of Assassin's Creed titles. This means that we're going to see a huge comeback for parkour, and so far, even though the cinematic trailer is the only aspect which has been revealed, Ubisoft has also said a lot about the new parkour systems that will be implemented, and that's exactly what we're going through today. So firstly, let's actually talk about Ubisoft's goals. It's been made clear by Ubisoft that Assassin's Creed Mirage won't be a massive open world RPG like what we've seen in recent games within the series. The game will be going back to a much more linear approach where missions will be shorter but more intense and have much more compelling gameplay mechanics. Parkour is going to play a crucial part of this. It's important for the parkour to play an important part within these missions, whether this involves climbing around buildings to find an entrance or climbing over walls, avoiding being detected. In Assassin's Creed Mirage, the city is going to be a lot more dense, full of buildings and obstacles, very similar to the style of Assassin's Creed 1, but not exactly the same. It's going to be full of buildings, full of obstacles, and this means that using parkour to jump from rooftop to rooftop will be much more useful and is likely to be the most efficient way from you getting from point A to point B. Whereas with what we've seen with Valhalla, parkour, still part of the game, we can't ignore that, but not the number one way for you to travel. There's a lot of open space, so it's likely you either used your longship to fit down those narrow rivers, or you chose to go on horseback where you can travel over the vast landscape. Ubisoft didn't want to carry down this route, considering that they do still see parkour as one of the main pillars, and we know this through a recent quote. Ubisoft have said, "This is our absolute goal indeed. We are seriously trying to reach this level with Mirage, and since Baghdad is dense as I mentioned, we want the players to enjoy their time in the city through parkour, which was and still is one of the important pillars on which we base the gameplay in Assassin's Creed Mirage." As we can see, Ubisoft has seen what works best within the series and acknowledged that parkour is still an important aspect, and that only leads them to double down more within Mirage. Now with parkour, it's not easy just to say that parkour is going to be a main aspect, because of course we know this is going to happen, but it's also a question to be raised of what type of style. Since the very beginning there have been several styles of parkour, and it'll be interesting to see how Ubisoft are handling this and which way they're going for, because some players like a certain style whereas others might enjoy something completely different. And Ubisoft have already said exactly what they're aiming for. They're really trying to push the style that was within Assassin's Creed Unity. Unity had a massive improvement with the parkour system, but unfortunately, because they were going for yearly releases at the time, with Unity, they ended up making a few mistakes which led to some major problems on release, many bugs, many glitches, and players couldn't enjoy the game as much as what Ubisoft were intending right at the beginning. But the parkour system itself has been complemented heavily over the years. Chances are, if you've ever interacted with any Assassin's Creed content, whether it be this platform, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, you've most likely been recommended more Assassin's Creed content. And a lot of the time, you will see Unity parkour as something that's pushed heavily with Assassin's Creed. And that's exactly what they're trying to go for with Mirage, but it won't be exactly the same. As part of Mirage, some missions will involve you running away from enemies, and others will involve certain parkour to dodge attacks and even get out of enemy sight quickly. And for this, they've made it slightly quicker. They've taken everything that Arno was able to do within Unity, they've made it more fast-paced and more dynamic, with there being more types of animations. You will be able to jump on top of buildings a lot quicker compared to what you've been able to do with any other previous Assassin's Creed, and this really fits into Basim's backstory. Basim will be the Mirage protagonist and will be significantly faster compared to other assassins within the series because he is there as a street thief from his early days. In the cinematic trailer, when Basim is young, you can see that his parkour moves aren't particularly amazing, but he is certainly fast. You can also see that he is interacting with scaffolding, pulling things in front of enemies, and that is said to be a mechanic within Mirage as well. And this is where it becomes a dynamic aspect. You have the fast pace of Basim, as well as him being able to interact with the environment, which will hopefully lead to him getting away a lot more efficiently. Ubisoft themselves have also backed this up. They've highlighted that with the Mirage parkour, it's also going to be very dynamic. This means that it's not going to be a singular mechanic that can't be mixed with anything else. You might be thinking that parkour will only be available when in certain positions or at certain points, but this will seamlessly blend with all other aspects of the game. And this is where the fast pace and dynamic situations of parkour does come in. Of course, with any Assassin's Creed, you can run and then blend in with the crowd, but you're going to be able to do it at a much higher pace with Basim, that it should open up a lot more possibilities for you to infiltrate a building or being able for you to get from point A to point B. With parkour, it may go without saying that it will be available at all times within Mirage, so therefore it's going to play a role within every mission. Ubisoft have already said that they're bringing back black box missions. Now, if you didn't play Unity and you're not familiar with this, pretty much, whereas with Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla, where you just need to go and assassinate your target, and in some cases you're placed right in front of them, with Unity you're placed in an area where you're able to interact with certain things around. Maybe you can listen into a nearby conversation, maybe you can pickpocket a guard who has a spare key, and then you can use all of these aspects to find different entrances and exits based on where your target is currently laying low. Maybe you did listen into a nearby conversation and you found out that there's a window that's always open on the top floor, so therefore you're able to parkour over and be able to sneak in without any problem whatsoever. If you did pickpocket someone, that spare key can unlock another door which will allow you to enter without ever being detected. Now, the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because Ubisoft are putting such a massive emphasis on parkour. It's going to play a massive part within these missions so that you will always have a parkour approach. Whether with this parkour approach you're happy to be detected or whether or not you're trying to go stealthy, it's really down to you. But one thing is for certain is that it will play a part within these types of assassination missions. Another thing that's going to link into parkour is the obstacles. Now, earlier we did talk about chase missions that will be incorporated as part of Mirage. It's not the case of you needing to stealthily assassinate a target, but in this case, it's about running away from the amount of enemies that are chasing you. And we did see a glimpse of this within the cinematic trailer. When you are running away, you will be able to interact with the environment. The example that I gave you earlier was being able to interact with scaffolding, as you're able to pull that down to block the path so that enemies find it a lot harder for them to climb over. It's not impossible, they will be able to go over, but it's going to slow them down, giving you a much bigger gap for you to escape. This isn't the only obstacle available. There will be loads of other obstacles that you will be able to interact with, which will help you when getting into these parkour chase missions. An older animation which is coming back is being able to run and then swing in between different types of stands. Now, this wasn't an animation that was used too much, and only people that were just jumping about just randomly ended up finding this. But there used to be an animation where if there was a stand, you would be able to run into it and you will be able to jump and then swing all the way through. This animation was actually taken out of recent titles, because it was also used for you to climb tall buildings as you would jump and then swing with plant plots on a chain and swing around the corner. But that was no longer needed within the recent titles, so Ubisoft removed this. But with Mirage, they're bringing it back, allowing you not only to interact with obstacles, but you also being able to traverse across them and get around them a lot easier compared to what the enemies will be able to. And this brings us on to our final point. Ubisoft are trying to lay out many different paths, whether that be paths for you to escape so that you have options to interact with other obstacles, or maybe you're able to parkour around it whereas others are not able to do that easily. Or it could be just the multiple paths that Ubisoft are trying to provide with each rooftop. Because the world is so much smaller and so much more dense, it's allowed Ubisoft and game developers to work on each building individually, which wasn't as much of a priority within the recent titles. There's been more emphasis on level design as there's more time, so that now things are going to flow a lot better as you jump from one building to another, no matter the path you take. With titles such as Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, Unity, Syndicate, all the older games with Assassin's Creed, when you were jumping building to building, you felt like this was a path that was specifically designed for this specific example, whereas recently that's been missing, and it made certain missions feel extremely clunky. At the time of recording this video, we're still waiting for gameplay. We do still only have the cinematic trailer, but based on what Ubisoft have said, if they execute this correctly, this could be the best ever Assassin's Creed with parkour. But with all of this, we do just need to wait and see. Now, within this video, we did go through a number of Assassin's Creeds, giving examples based on each one and how they're going to be incorporated within Assassin's Creed Mirage. Whilst talking about that, if you did start reminiscing on the old days with the AC titles, then I highly recommend clicking this next video that's up. This video will go through the best thing from each Assassin's Creed title. We go from the very beginning all the way to present day. So if you would like to see that, that video is now on screen. Click that and I'll be over there to show you the best thing from every Assassin's Creed.